blue collar crime versus white collar crime. And so you hear a lot of times where like people that do like insider training, they go to jail for go to prison for sometimes longer than like blue collar crime, which is like more violent, more like some people will say more serious and stuff like that. What are like so what are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think white collar crime should be held just as serious as blue collar?
I mean, a lot of them are non-violent, and you hear about like 2008 like housing stuff where all these people were making really irresponsible loans to people that almost put the economy over a cliff, and not a single person ever like went to jail. There's all these little crimes, which is kind of the opposite of that, but these little crimes that can really get you in trouble too. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of double standards. Like Martha Stewart, she did time, right? Wasn't
Yeah.
it for insider trading?
Insider training. I don't know how long she did though.
Was it like 9 months?
Was it 9 months?
Something like that.
I remember everything was like having a fun time with that, like her prison cell decorated and stuff.
Yeah, was it? I can't imagine she wasn't in a wealthy
State of the art.
Yeah, where she had 9 hours of free time.
Like in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Forgot I was rich. Here's me playing tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah.
But granted, I'm not very informed or knowledgeable on the judicial system, that kind of stuff. But I will say that a lot of those white-collar crimes, I mean, I feel like they can ruin people's lives just as easily.
Yeah.
If not more.
And you would say what? How would you say?
I mean, if,
in your opinion,
say, like, there's some financial guy and say he screws a few families over, and then all their money's just gone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
or
a pretty big deal, I feel like.
Say you spent 20 years building a business from the ground up, and you put a lot of time and effort to it, and then suddenly somehow someone found a way to cheat and take that all away from you.
Is that any different from somebody burning your building down? I mean that might be worse for them to ruin because you could just rebuild the
probably
building.
get an insurance claim.
Yeah.
Insurance claim.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
granted, I'm not saying I think that those blue collar crimes are any.
It's so hard to
case by case.
Yeah, it is. It's so hard because you don't know the dynamics of what everyone did and how it affects. Even say that even with violent crime and stuff like that. Like some of it, like you can argue or like, oh, maybe it was self-defense or maybe it was like something that was warranted. I don't know.
It's true, yeah.
Or something, or maybe there was like a mental illness or something. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just so many things, so many variables with both categories. It is really hard as a judge to determine like which one should be considered more serious. I would say someone's life is a lot more serious than someone's money because you can always get money back, but that's just that's just the easiest way that I can understand it. Put it.
I don't know a lot about like sentencing where there's death involved. I know, murder is like one thing, but I know isn't there like manslaughter or things like you might kill someone by accident, and that's that's horrible, but that's less serious of a crime in the eyes of the law.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Like what are some typical sentences for something like that? Like 5, 10, 20? I don't know.
Is it a murder like just 25 to life? Really?
Yeah.
Have there been cases in the last couple of years too, like somebody will kill somebody and like and then like it's ruled some justifiable thing or something like that, and they just walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's justified,
and it really depends on the state because like there's some states that have loose laws. Like there was in Texas, some lawyer just tried to kill his ex-girlfriend. Got it on camera where he was trying to shoot his ex-girlfriend at the bar. He was granted. He got bond or whatever. He only had to pay a percentage of it to get bailed out and stuff like that. But that was I don't know how that's not attempted murder. And he was able to just walk free in Texas.
You're very right.
I feel like anywhere else, any other state,
maybe Florida.
If you had if you're on camera and you tried to shoot somebody, how does that not? That's attempted murder, right? Like that's
Don't some states have that? It was a couple of years ago on some super racially charged thing where it was like a stand your ground law where like if you're on your own property feel threatened,
Castle.
like is that
Castle law.
Yeah,
Some states
like you
call it
can-
a castle law.
you could just shoot and kill somebody like if you were threatened. And of course, then it's of course decide later on if it was justifiable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was preventable.
Sounds like an awful lot of gray
Which-
area in that.
I am supportive of, but then you got to think of the other side. Where like, well, what if that was your teenage son that made a bad decision one time out of peer pressure to go in someone's house? Terrible idea, terrible mistake, and then was like, boom, shot and killed. Like, yeah, that's both sides of that is just like terrible.
The people's house, they don't know that person's intentions. They know what
Right.
they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't. Even if they are a kid.
yeah.
You don't know that necessarily.
It's just I see both. I think just it's really hard to be a judge. How it working the criminal system and being a part of a jury, like coming up with all this stuff and deciding the punishments for everything. It's just a job that I'm not want to have.
Yeah. And I think I don't have a lot of data to back this up either, but I think that like we're thinking about like white collar and all this, that the better lawyers you can afford, the less likely you are to have severe prison time.
Yeah.
I think that applies to almost everything.
I mean, isn't that why that SBF guy, FTX, the only reason
Yeah.
he's not hasn't been taken in imprisoned or whatever is because he donated like a lot of millions of dollars to like the Democratic
I
Party.
think he probably will still go to jail in some form.
I don't know.
Talking to everybody against
Yeah,
the
yeah,
advice
yeah.
of counsel.
The crypto, we had that question, I don't know, a few weeks ago.
That crypto billionaire guy
Oh,
that
okay.
just like
Mhm.
kind of mismanaged, kind of stole, kind of lost
And all I've been
Like,
seeing about that
billions of
guy
dollars.
is, yeah, he lost billions of dollars, and then people are, the only thing I've seen a lot of news outlets talking about is his plan to save the world's gone now. Because he had this whole thing about how he was going to use all the money to save the world.
Okay.
And that's
Yeah.
all they're talking about, is that plan's over with now.
Mhm.
Don't have a lot of money, donate it. Get away with a lot of things.
Yeah.
By a lot of favors.
Yeah. I don't know. I would always say, for me, I always say blue crime. Or I say violent crime because when I think of violent crime, I think of this absolute the worst: murders, rape, all that stuff. I feel like they should definitely be in prison longer than. But, however, though, this is from somebody that doesn't own a business. I don't have a lot of stock. I don't do any insider trading, so take it for what it's worth. But that's what my opinion is.
Speaking of white collar versus blue collar, I heard something a while ago because Disney, which protects their intellectual property so vehemently, good word of the day, and so like they had successfully lobbied to like impact copyright laws, so like Mickey Mouse would not go public domain after being so long, which everything else normally does. But I think I heard one time like it was some state in some situation where it was a higher punishable crime to like copy Mickey Mouse than it was to physically assault a police officer.
It just doesn't make sense. It does not. It
I've actually heard too that if you're ever going to make a sex tape, have Disney something going on in the background
'Cause they'll shut it
because
down.
their lawyers will make sure that never sees the light of day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind.
Getting
The more you
copy.
know.
The creators' like worst nightmare is getting copy striked.
Disney for sure. They're not they shut that down like immediately.
Yeah.
Any of their copyrights.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Answering my own question, I would say blue collar is a little bit worse. But I mean, there are some bad things. You know, a lot of negative things that white collar crime does cause. Makes people lose a lot of money. So I'm not saying that they should just get off and not get any time at all. But definitely, I don't think their crime is not as serious in my eyes as like the more aggressive stuff.
It seems like violent crime should be worse, but Josh made the point you can ruin a life just as easily a
Exactly.
different way too.
I don't know. And then now that person has they feel like they have to resort to crime because now they don't have a lot of money. I don't know.
That's true.
It could be just
Yeah.
a vicious cycle. But yeah,
I don't say anything.
Violence
what
worse.
Yeah, for sure. Like murder and all of that.
mhm.
It's for sure worse than somebody insider trading,
Yeah.
but
Mm,
it's probably a case by case, more or less scenario.
right.
Because there are some blue collar crimes that aren't so bad. That aren't so serious or dangerous or don't really affect anybody else.
Exactly.
You
Like drug possession.
Victimless crime.
Huh?
Victimless crime.
Yeah, there's some of those, and
Mm-hmm.
they're probably not as serious as white collar.
Right.
Yeah, taking money from some huge company instead of like typical working everyday Americans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know. The way laws are written is just mind baffling.
There are some dangerous crimes out there that they just get almost feels like a slap on the wrist sometimes.
Yeah.
And that probably goes back to what you said.
And
Better
half the
the
time
lawyer.
you can just appeal it, kick the
Yeah.
can down the road till somebody quits.
Yeah. Better the lawyer you have.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's true. All right. So
So we
Yeah.
have.
that's what we got. All right.
The castle law, I actually went to a high school or some